Okay, hi everyone. We are live. Check it. It's Anthony from Enlightened Business Solutions, and we're here today to start our first episode of We Mean Business, a talk show made for small business owners. And we'll be speaking with small business owners from around the country, providing some valuable insights and information about various topics where we expect the audience to get involved, comment and ask questions. And I'd like to make it clear that we don't have any agenda. I'm not a journalist. I'm a business owner, small business owner as well. I'm not affiliated with any political party or religious group. All of our shows will be streamed to Facebook, YouTube, Periscope. There's no cutting or editing. There's no mixing or scratching. It's all completely raw and unfiltered. If there's something you'd like to know about, as a small business owner, comment something through, and we'll be doing our best to provide that information for you. With everything going on at the moment, we thought we'd start with a little mini segment on COVID-19, where we'll be hearing stories from business owners, how they feel going on in current times, how they're coping, some of their mistakes, some of their successes, and an idea to help the small business community sort of come together and strengthen as we come out of this as well. So with that being said, our first guest is Edwin Almeida. I'll bring him into the stream. Good day, Edwin. How are you? Edwin from Ribbon Property.
I'm well, thanks, Anthony. And it's been a while, and it's great that we can catch up through the internet, given the fact that we haven't caught up person to person.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I think it's great that having you on the show first. For everyone who doesn't already know, Edwin and I have known each other for about 10 years. A little bit longer maybe. And I think, one of my first impressions of Edwin is he had this kind of steely, too cool for school real estate kind of persona. But when you get to know him a bit better, there was that softer side to him, and when he opened up, he started telling those bad jokes that I felt compelled to laugh at because he was paying for the coffee. And then over time, you get to know him a little bit more. And I think it's fitting to have you on the show first, because, something that I've known about you and kind of admired about you for a long time is I've always seen you as someone that's reinventing themselves, someone that's always looking at new ways to do better in business, to do better, the processes and your activities. And you're an innovator. You're an ideas man. And above all of that, you're an action man. You sort of get something in your head and you sort of run with it. And I think we need a lot more of that, these days, probably now more than ever. And so maybe just start with, tell us a bit more about yourself, your background. You've been in real estate since 2005, I think, or maybe just correct me if I'm wrong.
A bit earlier than that, but it just over bit more than a couple of decades. It's times like this, you've got to learn, and you've got to understand that you've got to duck and weave, reinvent yourself, and you've got to take all adversities and everything that life throws at you by the neck, and make it work for you rather than work against you. It's been an interesting journey in the real estate and property arena, and I think right now the industry itself is going through some major changes, and I'd say these changes were already in lieu anyway. Has meant that it's got to happen. It's just facilitated the need, and now we're seeing the expression of that need live, because a lot of the industry has had to adapt and adopt new technology in order to transact in business. Property inspections, whether it be for sale, for lease. Auctions and so forth. So we've had to adopt, but that's always been, as you said, that's always been my persona anyway, to adopt new technology, adopt new ways of doing things, and adapt. And there's going to be a lot of changes, not only in the real estate arena, but also with a lot of businesses in general. We're now finding out that potentially 30-40% of businesses don't necessarily, or business owners and workers don't necessarily need to go to the city to work in the city. We've found out doing a crash course that you can actually work from home, and in a lot of cases, a lot of instances, be more productive in working from home.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, apart from the real estate, you mentioned other businesses. What experience when you're out there, sort of doing what you do? What other experiences have you had with other industries, and what's it been like during these times?
Look, I as a business broker, not only as a real estate agent, but also as a business broker, I've come across. I deal with a number of businesses, a number of associates and associated firms. My business model has changed from your traditional mum and dad sales to now working more in line with align myself with lawyers, with accountants, and assisting people with their property transactions as well as with their business transactions. So one of the unfortunate things that we've seen of late, obviously, is trying to help and trying to see and facilitate how people are going to downsize. And I say unfortunate is because they're finding that that they can't keep the number of employees that they currently have. They've also got to downsize in terms of shop front or office front, or they have to look at different ways in order to save money, in order to stay afloat. So it's rather interesting. Retail is really getting a hammering out there, and so is the is the hospitality industry, the coffee shops, restaurants, and the like. So it's quite interesting how things have evolved quickly. But you know what, COVID-19 is really, I'd say, the straw that broke the camel's back. But because we were already seeing this occurring, we were already seeing that quite a number of retail outlets, or a number of retail shops and independent and franchise shops, as well as hospitality and cafes, that were already in trouble for one would say for over 12 months, 18 months, and they were starting to look at options anyway to, as I was saying, and small business operators to work from home as it was. Likewise, my industry has approximately 8,500 offices in New South Wales. So a lot of us, myself, for example, as you know, ran the office in Parramatta for quite a while. Now I've been pretty much working from a home office and attending another office that I subcontract to, and that has meant that I've cut down all my overheads pretty much. Leases on cars, on vehicles, on equipment, machinery, because I've had to adopt and adapt to the changes and transition, because it was already going through some pain as it was with, although the property owners were experiencing great joys in seeing the values of the properties go up. But the unfortunate thing was that the transaction volumes had dropped by almost 50%. And that's where real estate agents make money, is in the transaction volumes, not so much in property values going up.
Yeah, so you mentioned some of the ways you're changing your business. So how specifically are you changing what you do and how you do things differently during the current times? And then maybe a little bit on what you think the future might hold. Like once these lockdowns get lifted, what of those still need to stay in place, and what might change again?
Well, prior to this happening, the changes that were already happening with a number of my colleagues and myself was that we weren't tied down to an office. As I said, our licenses are tied down to a particular office, but that's a physical certificate that hangs on a wall in case the regulators want to come around and inspect our files and the like. But everything else, transactions and business, was actually happening in cafes. And as you know, even with yourself, as we've met up over the last few years anyway, we met up in cafes. I think you only came, in all the time that I've known you, Anthony, I think you only came to my office once, or maybe twice.
Yeah, that twice. Yeah.
And that was even when I had the office there at Paramount, because everything, the office, the pseudo office became coffee shops and restaurants, and transactions most of the transactions are occurring outside of offices. And so really realistically, the traditional models are changing, and they've been changing dramatically. So this is having greater or faster internet speeds and greater access to or tools that are available that can do things online, that you can live stream online, that you can talk with clients online through this platform, through Skype, Periscope, whatever. The medium of utilizing these mediums to talk and communicate has meant that a lot of the. I think I've lost you. Did I lose you? Are you still there?
No, I'm still here. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was just my screen. I thought it went black. So the mediums that we're using is they are now utilizing greater internet speed. So it's facilitated that, and a lot of the transactions, even legal documents are now being transacted or shared across secure platforms in order to facilitate it. So the industry has to change, and I think the industry in itself, as you said, like that was already happening with a lot of stresses, not only in the real estate industry, but in quite a number of other industries, financial planners, accountants. How many accountants work from home? How many financial planners are working from home offices? How many businesses can you think of that can operate from home as opposed to having a shop front and paying a lease? So because people don't necessarily travel to your office or your point of business, people want you to travel to them. And likewise with retail and quite a number of other services, the mobile services are picking up. I think there's going to be a huge change in dynamics with regards to people even attending restaurants. As much as you like to attend a restaurant, as much as you like to go out, but the thing is, it's relatively more cost effective and cheaper to get the restaurants now to deliver the food to you. So I guess, yes, you can't have a romantic night out, and go into a restaurant and a candlelit dinner. But then again, can you have that at home? Can you facilitate that at home at a much cheaper cost, given the fact that now potentially there's going to be unemployment could rise to 15, 16, 17%. Who knows where that's going to end? So money's going to be tighter. We're going to look for solutions or things that will facilitate us to transact with businesses or with delivering of goods or services by different means, Anthony. So, and property, as I said, the only time that you would see people are at the property that you're either selling, you're either going, you put on the market for rent, or a commercial premise that you again selling or putting it on the market for rent when people want to physically inspect it.
Yeah. So, I mean, you bring some interesting points up, and I know I've spoken to some people to say that this is now the death of retail, potentially, and the hospitality industry in particular might take, years, or might not even ever recover from this once people have habitualized into doing what you're saying, which is having romantic dinners in and things like that.
I've become with this lockdown, I've become. I think I've now attained my second star. I've got 3 Michelin stars. You've seen my Facebook page. I can cook an awesome meal in under $7, and that's for 2.
Yeah, fantastic. You probably got your sushi making black belt as well, right? So what do you think about that? And what's your advice for someone who might own commercial property or have a lease for a restaurant and things like that, or if they're looking to sell or if they're looking to buy? What's your views on some of that from a commercial perspective?
The property is so diverse, and it's not just one market. It's various markets in various areas. Look, in general, I think the indicators that we're seeing, where predominantly are for more property falls. I'm dealing with quite a number of commercial units at the moment, more so in helping clients buy as opposed to helping clients to sell. Even in that transition that I've made, that I've adopted, and I have been doing so for the last 18 months to 2 years, is transitioning from being your typical real estate agent in selling more so to, as I said, working as a consultant with lawyers, accountants, and also with clients that want to, developers that want to buy land, or clients that want to buy investment properties and the like. So what we're seeing is that I think the pain's going to get is going to get harder to bear. The indicators are therefore greater falls, and you only have to look at commercial. As I said, I think 40% of the SMEs are going to realise that they're probably going to be more effective working from home than commuting and having your small offices in the city centres. And I think what we're going to see a rise of is going to be more of what I call the incubators, or properties that commercial properties that are at least for temporary, facilitating temporary meetings and the like. So, but in terms of storage, in terms of retail shop fronts, hey, a lot more shopping's being done more and more online, and I don't think we're going to get people out of the habit now of shopping online that we've created, or this COVID-19 has created over the last 6-8 weeks, and could go on for another 4-6 weeks as well. So it's going to be a habit that's not going to be easily broken, and I don't think it can be broken. It's going to be too costly to break or get people to shopping malls. So I think that's now set in concrete. So there's going to be a bit more pain all around with property values across the board.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. So, I mean, when I first met you, we were in the aftermath of the GFC, and I mean, have you experienced other events like this, in the real estate game? And what's your educated guess as to how this might land in a few weeks' time?
In terms of comparing this downturn to the GFC,
or any others that you might have experienced, or other little events that might have happened, black swan type events, that might have come up.
Not really. I think we were economically, the governments have been a lot stronger and the economy has been a lot more stable in previous years than what it has than what it currently is. So I don't think we've been in a situation. We haven't been in a situation where we've had interest rates down to 50 basis points, let alone 25, and let alone going into a negative scenario. We haven't come across anything like this in terms of property, in terms of recessions that we had to have, in the 90s, and then there's the GFC, which I think we more or less came unscathed, and there was a lot of stimulus thrown into that recovery. We had a lot of, you could say we still had fuel in the tank, but this time around, I think we've been running on the smell of an oily rag for so many years, and quite frankly, it's unprecedented.
Is that the lawnmower guy out the front?
Oh man, I've got everybody. You're gonna have to forgive me. I've got somebody at the door now. Take a break, Anthony.
Okay. We'll just let Edwin deal with all that for a second, and we'll wait for him to come back. But look, if you've got some questions for Edwin, there's a few people watching at the moment. Thanks for joining into our first session. If there's some questions you've got for Edwin, look, comment them in. All right, he's back in as well.
Yeah, one of the downfall of working from home and having a home office is where you get deliveries guys, you get the lawnmower guy, you get the milkman, the baker, and the candlestick maker all turning up at once.
Yeah. I think they're environmental sounds, and I think you can buy the CD shortly. COVID-19 environmental sounds, and I think expecting women might be buying these CDs if they go to hospital, and just to be calm and set the scene a bit. Screaming kids and all of that kind of stuff is all become commonplace now when it comes to COVID-19 and how we do business. But So what I really wanted to get to, and maybe not so much for yourself, but if you had, other business owners that you were talking to, and if you could think if they could go back 12 months and you told them this was going to happen, what types of things would you be doing differently, and what types of things would you be telling them to do differently?
Look, I think people have got to. What would I be doing different if I knew this was going to happen 12 months ago? But I guess 12 months ago, as I said, 18 months ago, I've been so involved in the industry, and I've become highly immersed in the industry and commentary. As a number of your people that are watching, if they Google my name, they'll see what I've been doing over the last 10, 15 years, commenting on the industry, because I was so immersed. I could see changes already happening. And I think that's what people need to do. They need to, no matter what industry you get into, or no matter what industry you're involved with, or that you need to immerse yourself in it to the point where you've got to start breaking it apart. And as you know, Anthony, I've spoken with you many a times as to what I could foresee as changes and disruptions in many industries. So you can either, if you're going to be a business operator, you really need to be prepared for any type of disruption, and you need to protect yourself for anything, or prepare yourself to be able to either flow with it, or protect your clientele base, your territory from let's say from an invader, an invading change. Look, change most of the time is positive. We sometimes think that it's negative because it has, at the beginning, has an adverse effect. But if you're prepared for it, you can turn that negativity into a positive outcome. So what we've been doing. For many years, my colleagues and myself, is we've been looking at parallel industries that would complement the one that we're working with. And look, and I've known for over a decade that if you're just going to stick to one type of business or one type of industry, so fixated on just one, let's say one carriageway in a highway, well, you're going to come unstuck. You're going to derail. The train's going to derail, and that's what's happened. But so with us, as I've spoken with yourself and what you do, as I've shared some of my ideas in wanting to reach out to the industry, I call them parallel markets, or with regard to technology, and to assist other agents to do to perform a job better than what they have been through. Let's simplify it to rather than just using pen and paper, to using technology, rather than just using images, using video, rather than just uploading photos on a website, upload 3D or even a video or walk through floor plans and that sort of technology. So we have to adopt. And that's the only way that I guess that's what's allowing me and allowing many of my colleagues that I discuss things with, we've been able to cope with this transition. A lot of people aren't coping, and the reason why they're not coping is because unfortunately they're still stuck in the 90s or still stuck in the early 2000s, and yeah. So that's just one of the things. You've got to immerse yourself. Whatever you're involved with, if you're going to be selling sports shoes, well, you got to know the ins and outs, and what's a complementary business that you can have in order to not just sell sports shoes, but whilst you've got the client with you, what else can you assist that client with? Is it information? Is it knowledge? Is it training? Is it, it could be affiliate yourself with a for example, you could affiliate yourself with a personal trainer. So so Anthony, you come and buy sports shoes from me online, and then hey, by the way, Anthony, I noticed that you're buying a pair of Nike pumps, whatever. You're paying $400. You don't only just want to the great shoes, but are you using them for this, or that, and if your motive is to because you want to start getting fit, well, we have an association and affiliation with so and so PT services, and because you bought a pair of shoes from us, you've got the first lesson for free. You've just got to look at your parallel businesses that you can complement and share. So there's going to be a co-hosting, if I could use that term, co-sharing, co-hosting of the clientele bases or the databases that are effectively your clients.
Yeah, I know. We've talked in the past a lot, and what you're sort of reminiscing with me about is that joint venture marketing type relationship that you and I had sort of some years back too, and what we were promoting. So, I think that's a good message for this show too, about, working together with other businesses so that everyone can sort of do well out of this as well. I want to just quickly get to residential property. I know there's a lot of business owners who own property, their own houses, investment properties. They might be, landlords and those types of things too. What's some advice you've got for people sort of in that space, if they've got to negotiate with tenants, or if they're tenants that have to negotiate? Do you have anything to sort of comment on all of that? Is it a good time to sell? Is it a good time to buy? I mean, in Sydney or in the areas that you know? I know I can see that it's a difficult, so it's a loaded question, but take it where you want.
As I said, the indicators are showing that property values are going to continue to go down. There's just there are more indicators to show the values going down than there are stabilizing. We're not going to. I don't see a V-shaped recovery. I don't see a U-shaped recovery. If I was to paint an image, you could perhaps say we've got an image of the symbol of the square root symbol. But the thing is, we've still got a long ways to go to hit the bottom before we recover. And that's that's the unfortunate thing. When you look at the numbers of what the government has implemented with regard to JobKeeper allowance, Job Start allowance, and government employees, if you add all the people that are under JobKeeper, are under the Job Starter, and directly employed by the government, guess what? At the moment, you would say that almost 66% of the working population is employed by the government. If you add them all up, because effectively, the government's paying for all this. So how long can that go on for? How long can it be sustainable? The figures that have been bantered around in some of the circles that I discuss things with on Twitter, and on the platforms that I'm involved with, and dealing with my business associates. I mean, I don't think anybody's really that's got a couple of brain cells won't be able to see the fact that the unemployment rate is going to go above 15%. We could even hit 20%, 22%, and that's going to be devastating. So, in terms of recovery, there's a long way to go. We don't know when the full lockdown laws are going to be lifted. We're relying and dependent on international travel in terms of students, in terms of international students, in terms of the tourism. The tourism industry is absolutely being devastated, and was so before COVID-19 with the bushfires that we were experiencing. The drought and everything else. So, if we're talking about airlines going full steam, when is that going to happen? Is that going to, where the government or the narrative that's being bantered around out there in the big media is possibly 12 to 18 months before that really kicks off in earnest. So, I really think it's a matter of batten down the hatches, and people have got to take stock. Obviously, on a one-to-one scenario, look, if they reach out, I'm available to give them friendly advice. But to answer, everybody has their own needs and their own individual needs and requirements in order for me to say. But to give it a blanket.
I understand. Yeah.
Because see, the thing is, there's just so many things that people could be. You could be you could be selling, and then you might have, you've got all sorts of implications. You've got CGT, capital gains tax. You've got, but look, people just need to reach out. If people follow me on Twitter, if your followers can follow me on Twitter and can direct message me, you can share my accounts, Anthony, and I'm more than happy to give them some friendly, spend some 10-15 minutes with them on the phone, or give them some friendly advice before they decide to do anything, and just hopefully direct them, put them in the right direction. I've talked a number of people out of selling their properties, as opposed to putting them on the market. Others, I've advised them to sell now before they lose more in terms of the equity in the property, because of the areas where they're in, because of what they're doing, and the lifestyle situations that need to change. Some people can't wait another 5, 7, 10 years for the recovery. Others are better off waiting because they're already underwater.
Yeah. So you might have already answered the question, but I've just got a note here to ask specifically about first home buyers, and then also, what I like to term the last home buyers, right? So those about to enter retirement, might be downsizing and those types of things, or, we're thinking about that before all this happened. So the first home buyers and then the last home buyers. First home buyers,
I'd wait. I've looked at figures. Obviously, my patch, my my backyard is Sydney. All over Sydney, north, south, east, and west, and I've ran some numbers through our models in various areas, various suburbs, as to what you can still buy. Although property values have gone, in some areas, have gone down already by about 12, 13, 15%. What you can buy that property for, and as to what you can rent property for, are still miles apart. So, it's often the case that you can still rent property in these areas, because rental values, a lot of people may not understand and might not realize that rental values in some areas have gone down by up to 30%. So, even if you had the money to buy, you're paying more as an interest only repayment to the bank than what you would in rent these days as well. So, it's an opportunity for people that, first home buyers, to perhaps rent in the area that they think they want to buy, spend a year and a half or whatever in that area, before they really put the roots down. I think it's a great opportunity to do that. I call it, like it's like you take a car for a joyride, or not joyride. You take a car for a test drive. And if you can have the car for a few days, you realize that you either hate it or you like it. And this is an opportunity to do that with a property, where you can actually rent a property in the area that you think you want to live in. Still pay a lot less than what you would be paying the bank interest only, and see if you really like the area, if you really like the surroundings, because you're going to be there for 6 months, 12 months. The last home buyers, well, they're the ones that they can't wait another 5 years for the recovery. They're a lot of cases I've been advising them and telling them that, look, get out whilst the values have only dropped 10% in some areas, or 12%, because it's only going to get more painful. There's going to be more property going to be put on the market. As people realize that they can't pay the remortgages, they've lost their business, they're going into voluntary administration or into liquidation. So more and more jobs are going to be lost. So therefore, if they get out, the sooner they get out, the sooner they can realize the value of the property, the sooner then they can buy into the retirement villages and the like, because these people this generation is a generation that they can't wait another 7, 10, 15 years for the recovery in order to realize the values that they would otherwise realize now, or even 2 months ago, when values were a lot higher. Because let's face it, they don't have that the life span or expectancy, perhaps. It's the aging population that are going into the next phase of their life, which is really retirement. And given the fact that they've also a lot of the superannuation funds have lost a lot of money on the stock market. Banks are in a lot of trouble. You've got Westpac's, been making noise for the last couple of weeks, and so is ANZ. So with all this uncertainty, that's a generation that I feel they have to transact quickly to get out quickly. In broad terms, in general terms, once again, seek financial advice from your from various professionals around.
Yeah. No, there's some good information there, and I know you've been following this COVID-19 thing very closely since inception, and probably alerted me to something sort of what was it, late December or something, early January, when things were still, not even on many people's radars. What do you feel about what's happening now? I think we talked briefly yesterday about the wave 2 and things like that. Do you have anything to add on things like that and what people should be expecting?
Well, if you only have to look at what other countries around the world have been doing and have done and have been doing. Obviously, there's two camps now. There's the camp that are advising people to wear masks, and there's the camp that are advising people not to wear masks. There's the camp that are telling you that it only affects the young, and there's the other camp that's saying, hey, this disease has a lot more. There's a lot more to it, and that we don't know. Obviously, I sit on the camp that advises everybody to wear masks, and not because you're not to stop you from catching something, but let's say you're asymptomatic and you've got something and it's really to stop you spreading your germs more than the other way around. So it's being respectful of the rest of the population. What we've seen is countries around the world, such as Singapore, when they lifted the lockdown a lot earlier, and now they're going through a second wave, and the second wave is a lot hitting them a lot harder. What we don't hear a lot about is obviously where this whole thing started, which is in China, and what they're going through, and unless you've got contacts and connections in China, you're not going to get the full story. You're just going to get the mainstream media, and obviously. The numbers we'll never know how many people actually died there. We'll never know, in its entirety, how many families suffered, how many groups, not only individuals in families died, but how many family groups died in apartment buildings. How many apartment buildings got knocked down because of the infection throughout the plumbing and the sewerage systems. We won't know all this information in its entirety. But what I do know right now is that industries haven't gone back as much as what we hear on the mainstream media, because the locals that I talk to, the people that I talk to live, that are on the ground in a number of the cities there, it's really a show that's been put on for the rest of the world. And they've got the second wave, and they're more scared of the second wave there than what they are of the first, because the first was controlled, relatively, more controlled. Everybody was conscious of it, but now everybody's a little bit more relaxed, or the younger generation are a lot more relaxed than the older people, because the older generation are the ones that went through SARS. They're the ones that went through all the other viruses that ravaged China previously. Whereas the younger generation, they didn't see that. They only heard stories, or they feel that they're more resilient than what they really are. But the other things that we don't know about and that we don't hear much of is the fact that keep in mind that China was supplying the world with anything from $2 items to cars and other type of machinery and other products. So if the rest of the world is in lockdown, well, guess what? No manufacturing is happening there. So they're going through an economic wave there that the locals haven't seen. You've now got families living in 2-3 families living in under one roof. in order to cope with the economic downturn that they're experiencing. But we don't hear these things unless as I said, unless you've got people on the ground there. You don't get a lot of this. So if we lift this too prematurely now, and I'm mainly talking about the eastern side of Australia, New South Wales and Victoria. Keep in mind that we're about to walk into our winter, and so you've got these small clusters that are showing up in meatworks, in meat plants in Victoria. Another cluster here, another cluster there, and so you don't know who's asymptomatic and who's walking around with it. And now we're going to have this huge confusion of the flu, what would otherwise we'd note as the flu, and COVID-19. So if you've got somebody with all those symptoms, is it COVID-19? Is it the flu? So there's going to be so much uncertainty. But the good thing is that the narrative of the government and the powers to be, that they're not talking about opening up the borders early, and I think that's our saving grace to an extent. But there's still a lot more pain to go through, and I just encourage people to protect yourself and look and help protect others, and just be mindful, because there are simple things that we can do in terms of hygiene, in terms of wearing masks, in terms of sanitizing and keeping that social distance regulations, and be more inclined to sanitize your workspace, work environment a lot more, and be more open to that. And that's moving forward. Once we're over this COVID-19, there'll be other viruses, and hey, it's a good thing. It's cleaning up our workspaces and workstations as well.
Yeah, as well as the environment at large. Yeah, so there's many positive things, I think, taken from this also. So, I mean, is there any other comments you'd like to add? Look, we've got a few people online for our first show. Thank you all for joining us. I'd like to see some interaction. I want to test out the comments. If there's anyone there that'd like to post something, I'm going to test the comment because no one else is doing it. Is it working? Okay, we've tested a comment. That's great. Is anyone else that'd like to send a question through? But if not, then look, thanks a lot for joining us for our first show, Edwin. I remember, yesterday I called in seemingly a bit of a panic, because I have a few people lined up over the coming days. I've probably got a week and a half worth of interviews. Oh, there we got some comments come through. That's great. So that works. And I called you up, and I didn't explain to you what I was doing with the show before about 4 o'clock yesterday. And you were driving somewhere, and I called other people before that, going, "Hey, I need something for tomorrow. I want to go live tomorrow with the first one." Some people went, "Oh, it's too soon. I'm not free," and all of that kind of stuff. And I remember mentioning to you, "Here's what I'm doing." You go, "When are you going to start?" "Tomorrow at 10 o'clock." And you're like, "Yep, I'm in. Give me an hour. We'll test it all out, and we'll go." Like, wow, this guy, right? Just jump in there, both feet, is brilliant. Yeah,
well, and I think that's what. Look. As much as trying, helping you out and kicking this off, and I think it's a great initiative, and getting the business community to talk to each other and share and thoughts. I'm just one person in Sydney. There's millions others that I'm sure even I'd be interested to hear what they have to say and how they've coped in different areas. But I guess in all this, Anthony, we just have to be ready. An old mentor of mine used to say, "There's an opportunity to go and pass you every day. You just have to be ready and await to take it. Otherwise, it just passes you by." So, look, appreciate the time. Thanks for the invite. I think it's a good service, and the business community can become recluse, or can be we can. Even with this lockdown, we can feel that we're alone. But there's a big wider world out there, and people like yourself that want to do something good and reach out and create these forums. As I said, I share a lot, I discuss a lot in other with different people in other forums. I think it's a great initiative, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It means a lot to me, buddy. But I think you've you've really sort of had a lot of input here and some great information. I think in a few weeks' time, we might invite you back again to discuss sort of how things have progressed and how things have changed.
And I won't have the lawnmower man outside this time.
Yeah, that might be a good idea as well. So, that brings us to the end of our first episode, and I think there's, a lot more people that we'll be talking to in the coming days. Tomorrow, we've got Greg Haysom from Exact Computers in Wodonga, Victoria. So, getting another perspective from an IT services businesses in a regional area, and how things are being affected down there, what he's doing, and to pivot, and what his outlook on the whole situation is. So if you like the conversation and you're into these types of things and you think it could be a benefit for you, like you were saying, Edwin, what I see is, in this isolation, there's a lot of business owners who feel even more or further isolated. I think, even in general, when people aren't locked down, being in small business for yourself can be quite isolating because there's not generally a lot of people to talk to. That's why networking events and, platforms like BNI and BBG and the rest of them out there, sort of do so well and have their purposes because they provide that platform. So, with this, I think even in what we've been doing in the past, sometimes you get a few ideas and it's like a combination lock, and you get the first number, the second number, the third number, another idea, you have a conversation with someone, you watch a TED talk, and then I'm hoping we can provide, one of those combinations along the way. And sometimes it only takes that one to then unlock, the ideas and inspiration that sort of people might be looking for at this time. So thanks a lot for joining us. Yeah, thanks for supporting the show and supporting what we do. And thanks for everyone for listening in and testing the comments. We look to do more, and join us tomorrow at 10 o'clock with Greg Haysom. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Anthony. Cheers.